Okay, started.
Awesome. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks for having me. This time worked out better than when it's midday in Chicago, because that's like 2 a.m. for me, I think. So, yeah, I just thought I'd share some of the stuff that's going on from a product perspective. I won't take up too much of your time. I know this is primarily for Q&A, but I thought you might just find this interesting. So just let me know, Santani, you can see the famous roadmap slide, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, which you've seen probably 100 times before, but it is very relevant because what I'm going to show you is very much roadmap. Some of it is actually like ideas that are like 2 weeks old, but because I'm now embedded in Claude Code, I'm able to produce prototypes and proofs of concept very quickly. And so I like to share those early with the community and, get some thoughts, get some feedback. So I thought I would bring up this slide here. I've got to say this slide just keeps changing. So, be patient because the rate of change in technology has just accelerated beyond belief. And therefore, this slide I've probably edited this slide 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks, if that gives you an idea of so much going on. But some of the recent developments are the recycle bin, you can see on the left-hand side. Recipe Inspector is another one that I believe is GA. So 262, Summer 26. Summer 26, you would have had that for a week or something?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. Has anyone played with Recipe Inspector?
Of course.
At all? Okay. Were you on the pilot, Santani, or only since it's GA?
Pilot.
Anybody else?
By the way, that saved me over an hour of time in a recipe.
Ah.
There was something.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so there was something hanging where there was just one. Initially, we wanted to use an object and we joined it to the recipe, and then we figured that doing it that way wouldn't be a great idea. We didn't add any more data to it, but I had forgotten that its existence, and then Recipe Inspector came. This object we never used, but it is trying to join with one record and 80 million rows.
Oh.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. And that's just phase 1, right? Phase 2 gets really interesting, where there'll be a combination of deterministic and AI-powered recommendations. So I've actually been working on a document. Let me share this with you. Hang on. Let me see if I have it available. I can't share it, like send it to you, but I can show you on my screen because it's still in it's still very much early days. I used Claude Code and Slackbot to scour all of our resources and also the internet, because for this other project I'm going to show you, I needed a comprehensive best practice. So this is what I'm working on. So it's 10 pages, so there's a fair bit to it, right? And that will feed into Recipe Inspector, but it will also feed into something else I'll talk about in a moment, which is the Pipeline Genius and the CRMA Doctor as well. We're expanding our Virtual Private Connect capabilities. I mentioned Recipe Inspector, pivot tables, right to data cloud, auto semantic model generation, and then enrichment from CRMA recipes. So if you look under 2H 2026, we get into more of a future state. So 264 is what my teams are currently building now. And those are scheduled for release in winter, which is like around October. And then we're currently planning for 266, which is spring 27. So we're doing more work around semantic layer and CRMA, which is no surprise to you. We're also making it easier for CRMA customers to use the analytics agent, which we call Concierge. And we're also looking into the possibility of embedding Concierge in CRMA. So not just side by side on a page, but actually embedded in a CRMA dashboard. So that's something that we're looking into. Again, no promises on anything on here that is under 2H, because they're all either, we're building a proof of concept or we're considering them. We've talked about Format Painter before. We've talked about dynamic show hide widgets. Dynamic show hide widgets is an idea I've been pushing for 2 years, and it's still under consideration by my colleague in the authoring team. CRMA MCP, Model Context Protocol. So that feature itself is the basis of a number of exciting prototypes that are currently under development and being considered for the roadmap and therefore for GA. Because when you can connect programmatically to CRMA, then that comes with a whole lot of exciting capabilities. And then under Enterprise Scale Data Platform, calendar view for scheduled jobs. There's a V1 out, but it's kind of lacking in a UI UX. So we're looking at further development there with Christian and his team. Organising recipes and folders, Recipe Inspector, so phase 2, providing insights, uploading Parquet files, Pipeline Genius and CRMA Doctor, which I'll talk about. Connect to Helper Agent. So just making it easier to troubleshoot why, particularly external connectors, why they aren't working. Because it's quite common to go in and connect to an S3 bucket and it saves and tests and it says, yes, it's working. Then you go to edit the objects or add objects and there's nothing. And it's actually quite difficult at that point often to figure out what went wrong. So the idea is that AI would help you there and help you understand, hey, this is what you're missing. You don't have a sample schema file. You've got to have that, whatever the case may be. Okay. Before I show you a couple of quick sneak peeks, which I think you'll be quite interested in, is there anything on here that stands out in particular, or anything that isn't here that you think, that you say, oh, I wish you guys would add so-and-so?
There's a lot of CRMA, MCP questions, and Johan is asking about agentic.
Did he ask a question in chat? Because I can't see chat at the moment.
In chat.
Can you read that to me, please?
He's just saying agentic question mark. Johan, ask your question.
Oh, agentic question mark. Well, I think you can see there's some agentic capability here, like the connector helper agent, right? I mentioned analytics agent, which if you think of Tableau-Next Concierge, we are considering embedding that in CRMA. So there's a couple of use cases there. Is there anything else you had in mind?
I think it's more like for the users able to ask questions on the dashboard.
Yeah. Right? So that's the concierge in CRMA. So right now you can have a CRMA dashboard on a page. You can have the analytics agent, which we call concierge, but you can have the analytics agent next to the dashboard on the same page, running off of the same data, right? So it's the same data driving both of those. So the conversational experience where you're asking questions to the data and the traditional dashboard experience. However, at the moment, when you interact with the dashboard, the agent has no idea about that interaction. Yeah. So they don't talk to each other. Also, you have to manually embed those separately. What we're looking at is the capability of truly embedding the conversational experience into a CRMA dashboard so that wherever you expose the dashboard, you would expose the agent, should you so choose, and the agent would be aware of your interaction with the dashboard so that if you like filter and facet into a certain cohort of data, well, you want the agent to know that you've done that and then ask a question. You don't want to have to go to ask a question and then tell it filter by this and filter by that and filter by this, right? So, yeah, does that help, Johan?
Yep. When
Yeah, so
this is planned, like
yeah, good question. So currently, it has been prioritized, so it's not just an idea. We do have an internal pilot at the moment. So we call that customer zero. So we have a number of Salesforce orgs internally, and usually the first place we test anything like that in the real world is with, our employees. So my understanding is that that's happening at the moment. I do think it's coming up for beta in winter. Don't hold me to that because I don't have the document in front of me that has all those dates. I don't own that. My colleague Anurag owns that. But it's not just an idea. We're looking at delivering that, and it will be soon.
okay. Thanks, Mark, for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Which is great, right? Because before it was like, well, if you want that, you've got to have Tableau next. Well, who wants to re-platform? So yeah, I think that's a great development. All right, cool. So I already mentioned that's it. So
Mark, real quick, there's Mark Anders is saying, small suggestion, in the UI, pre-selected value could be based on SQL, so rules logic. Maybe I have missed this.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Who said that? Anders?
Anders.
Anders, can you shoot me an email with that? Let me give you my email address.
Yeah,
I think you have it already, don't you? Do you have my email address? Can you just let me know? And if not, I'll type it in the chat. I'm in the chat now. You do have it, great. Yeah, perfect. Shoot me an email on that if you don't mind. That's a really interesting one. And that goes to Anurag, my colleague. So let me have a look at that. So great one. Great thought. Okay, so I'm going to show you very quickly some ideas. These are either UI UX prototypes, which mean they're not real at all, or in the case of Pipeline Genius, I do have a fully working proof of concept which is connected to a real environment. But I don't want to take too long on these today. So the first one is Jobs Monitor, and the ambassadors have seen this before, but the idea is this is a representation, a rough representation of our current experience. In Jobs Monitor, you're limited from memory to 7 days, 500 jobs. You've got a list view. You've got a few filters up on the top right, which don't show on this mock-up. But, you don't have a lot of insights into failure rates and performance and trends and patterns, either good or bad, etc. So the idea is that we would ingest all of this event data into a CRM analytics data set. Then you would get an out-of-the-box app with a bunch of dashboards like this. And not only would you get access to dashboards like this, which you're seeing here, right, where you've got your metrics, your spark lines, period over period analysis, you've got these really helpful trend lines and got like a calendar heat map and categorizing your failures and your performance, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot here. You would not only get these insights out of the box, but you would also get the data set. And if you have the data set, you can build whatever you want. You can even export that and take it somewhere else. So I've had a lot of really, really positive feedback on LinkedIn and from the ambassadors on this. So this is more than just an idea. This is actually the engineering team in India right now is finalizing plans for a proof of concept. And I'm hoping that we will have a working proof of concept within maybe 6 weeks or so, hopefully. Because what you're seeing here, I built this with Claude Code. This is a UI UX interactive mock-up. We are looking at embedding it in phase 2 because it's a fair bit more work. Phase 2, you would actually, and I think this is even better, in phase 2, you would get this in Jobs Monitor as another tab. And then there's a button down here where if you want to go to the full dashboard, you can click on failure analysis and that will take you here. Before I move to the other teaser that I want to show you, anything on this?
Mark,
anyone who hasn't seen this, because I know Santani and Jen, you have seen this.
Yep. No, real quick. Of course, we have given our feedback, but currently in CRM, and Johan, Anders, let me know if you have seen this. If you have a failure in recipes somewhere, you could go to data flows and download what the failure is. I'm unable to find any way of downloading it anymore. It says you can go there and download it, but no, it doesn't download anymore.
Oh.
There's no button to download it. That has disappeared.
Can you shoot me a note on that and shoot me an email, not a Slack, if you don't mind?
Will do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, I don't want to take up the whole session. So what I'm going to show you now is super new. This is like a 2-week-old idea, I think, or 3 weeks. And then I built a UI UX prototype, and then I built a working proof of concept. So what I'm going to show you is not just an idea. I've actually built the basic capability and connected it to one of our dev environments. So this is something that we're investigating as a maybe for next release. So no timeline on this, but frankly, I love this, right? So the idea is, right now it's really hard. Can you imagine if you came into Conservice or Palo Alto or one of our many customers, right? And you were hired as a data engineer or a CRMA admin. Oh my goodness, how hard is it to figure out what's even going on in that org? Because so many people have touched it over so many years. You've probably got like hundreds of dashboards and many data sets and recipes and data flows and data syncs. And it's really difficult to figure out what's going on and what's feeding what and what's the lineage look like and where can we make things better? Where can we improve things, make more efficient? How can we do a cleanup or like have an org audit? It's almost impossible. But because of the MCP, the Model Context Protocol, you're actually able, we can now connect you to an org. Now, the first UI is this. This was the starting point. This is actually a screenshot of my Claude Code. So this is real. This is not a mock-up. So I actually, if you look at the top, identify unused data sets for retirement. So I went in and I said, hey, show me across the org what data sets are unused and we can look at retiring them. Can you imagine how hard that would be to do manually? Yeah, I don't even want to think. And this org has 951 data sets, 994 dashboards, 164 lenses. So this was able to identify, this took about 2 minutes to run in a live environment. And it surfaced all this beautiful information. Now from here, this is just a subset of that list. From here, I could export to a CSV to give me a list. Our vision for the future, phase 2 would be, wouldn't it be great if you could then say, hey, all right, with some governance and checks and balances in place, but potentially say, right, I've double checked this list and I want you to go ahead and clean up. Now, of course, we have a recycle bin now in beta, so they're not actually fully deleted, which is a huge benefit. But that's the kind of capability I initially began with. And on the left-hand side, you can see skills like CRMA lineage, orphans, analyze recipes, study recipe health across the org. I want to understand my schedule across the org of all the recipes and data flows and syncs and what's running and when. And then we went to another idea, which I really like this one, and that is, this is a real report that Claude ran, and it took about 1 minute to run. I just said to Claude, I literally just said, audit my org. And it created, and you can share this as a PDF, this is just HTML. It created an org-wide audit. It flagged top issues that might need addressing. Also gave me warnings, right? Like you see here, recommendations, and then talk me through this field redundancy issue that we have in the org. And again, this is not like a PowerPoint slide. This is a genuine asset that Claude created. This is based on real data. And then we can see our orphan data sets, etc. We can have a look into recipe health. That would be an asset that could be shared, like I said, as a PDF. It could be purely used by the admin. There's a number of ways you could use that. I know I'm going quickly, but then another idea was, okay, we started with Claude Code, and then Claude Code can generate this. I love Claude Code, but not everybody likes being in this kind of UI, right? So what if we had more of, this idea where we're actually in, and imagine this in Analytics Studio, okay? Again, this is just a mock-up. Now I'm getting these insights at a very high level in the UI, in CRMA. I can go into more of a detailed report. I can look at my recommended fixes. I can export the findings, etc. And then another idea that I had, which I forgot to add. Give me 1 second. I got to find it. Okay, hang on. And you can tell there's just so many ideas around this because the capabilities have been opened wide up. This is another idea. So this obviously looks a bit, pretty close to what Jobs Monitor looks like from a mock-up perspective. What if you had down the bottom here, on the left-hand side, if you had a data pipeline audit tab, what if this was constantly running? So, I've talked about calling for it here and producing a report, which I think has a lot of benefit. This is like a separate UI built within the platform, but what if it were just right here? It's right next to your Jobs Monitor. I've got a data and pipeline audit. And then if I want to, I click on this where it says open full report, and then that would take me into the full report. All of this is purely insights and recommendations in phase 1. Phase 2, maybe phase 3, because there's a lot to consider, is the idea of actually being able to go from, say, here. So if we go in here and then we go to the recommended fix, instead of, maybe I could have a generate fix plan, but maybe beyond that, I could say perform the fix. Now, there's a lot to consider there because you don't want people, deleting objects in bulk, and you got to be super, super careful. But that's the pipeline genius. And I'm going to be going through that on more detail with a few customers on Thursday. But pretty exciting stuff. Is this helpful? Is this useful? Would it be useful to be able to run these commands on your org and produce a pipeline audit report, etc.?
You have no idea. Jen and I were speaking about it last week, and we were both frustrated. Like, if I can know what fields are not being used in my data set, I would love to have my recipe time, runtime come down. I have no way of knowing it currently.
Well, Mark, that I got asked to deconstruct some old CRMA that's still sitting like a ghost town in our org. And I literally had to just go in there and trial and error it. And that was to get 2 fields out. 2 fields that they wanted to be on. So I want you to imagine it's sitting in a ghost town, right? Nobody's touched it. There's no active data sets running. And somebody's like, we can't delete these 2 fields off opportunity because on their end, on the wave, on the dev side, it says wave dependency. And these are people that've never heard of wave, and they don't even know what that means. So, and I was able to do it, but it was funny because I thought, well, if I wasn't here, how would you guys have done this? You know?
Yeah, and look how much experience you have. What if you come in with 6 months experience or nothing in CRMA and you're told to clean up an org? You wouldn't even know where to start.
Well, I got hired here to do that back in 2018. Remember, I took everything that they had already built and optimized it. But it's one thing to optimize. It's another thing to audit it, right?
Yep.
Like you can build on top, but what I'm noticing for everybody on this call, like this trend out for all of us old timers, right? Sanitani, sorry, you're getting to be an old timer now.
Jen, I've been doing this for 9+ years. I am an old timer.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just like super old. I'm like ancient on this, but everybody is built, and housekeeping later. And
yeah, exactly.
One thing to rear its ugly head, or one release where something goes in the release or gets upgraded. And I thought, it's funny because it's always been admins in control of the release notes, right? Here comes a new release. Everybody learn their stuff. But that doesn't mean everybody in your organization is like reading the latest APIs. And, I don't know if you guys know, but out in the broader sphere, there's a lot more ways to get metadata. We've always been using metadata with CRMA, right? It's all about the XML, the meta in it, right? But we've never really been able to get to that. And Mark,
yes.
You've just brought the meta forth to us. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think everybody on the call understands CRMA pretty good, but maybe there's people on the call that need a little bit more explanation of what you've done here.
Also,
keen to hear any other feedback or questions, and I don't want to take over the whole call with this. I'm conscious that this is a general Q&A session.
Take it away, Mark. This is your forum, man.
So Mark Anders is saying this is such a valuable tool for the back-end optimization, and for some reason his mic and camera are not working. So that's why I'm talking about him. This can support governance of Yep. So that's where Anders, I was also coming from, like the data sets have been created like currently 10 years ago. 2017 February is when they were created. Some of them, not everything, few of them were created then. And since they were created then, it's almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
There are things in there that should not exist. There are things in there that need to be audited. I am one person. I cannot be doing this and breaking things and then figuring out, there are out of the 500 fields, there are 100 fields that have never been used, will never be used.
And the beauty is too, we're not just giving you, I know I showed you the UI. So this is the UI approach, and it's a fixed experience. But when it's available, for example, to Claude Chat or to Claude Code, it opens up a wealth of possibilities. We give you skills, but we give you best practice documents to go with that, right? Because you've got to be careful. You don't want hallucinatory responses. I will mention what I've shown you this is for the back end, but we're also looking at something called CRMA Doctor. Can you imagine if you had a dashboard that 5 different people have built over 4 years, and it's got 27 filters and 15 charts and 1,000 lines plus of JSON and 28 bindings and 150 line custom SQL queries. You know how it goes, right? All that technical debt that just builds up over time. Well, imagine if you could go in and say, hey, look at this dashboard. It's far too complicated. We can't even maintain this anymore. Feed in the requirements that you have. It already knows the queries. It already knows the data, but you feed in, this is what we really need. Rebuild this for me, following best practice. And then it has our best practice documents fed into it, so it knows what best practice is, and it creates another version of that dashboard. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but hopefully it's going to be like 70, 80% there. That's like weeks of work, right? And that could take like 5 minutes. So that's another idea we have. I don't know if that's of interest.
very much. Anything that saves us time. Anything you can do to save us any time.
So check, I'll show you another one, right? So check, and again, I know we're going through this with a few customers on Thursday. I think Jan and Santani, you're in that one. Check this out. I just ran this while we were talking. And again, this is Claude Code. A lot of people don't like this interface. That's fine. Claude Chat is simpler. This could be in the UI as well, but just bear with me, right? This is still an idea. So I ran a field trace redundancy skill. I want to find out, like, do we have a lot of fields, you know, like opportunity, like name in an opportunity type data set? Check this out. So it's in 3 minutes, it scanned 120 data sets that look like opportunity data sets, cross-referenced against all these dashboards, and it said, look what you've got. All these permutations of that word name. Look at opportunity.name, opportunity_name, op.name. You guys, we've all been in the room where we're CRMA. You know what this is like. Look at all these permutations, right? And all these different data sets, and then adjacent fields, opportunity, account name, its owner, et cetera, et cetera. So then it goes into, like, where are we mixing all these various different permutations? If I wanted to, I could go in and say, right, let's clean this up. Let's get rid of all this redundancy. Give me a plan to do that. I personally wouldn't like this to do that automatically. You could potentially do that, but at least give me a detailed plan on how we can fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, Jen, you said this data's always been there.
Yep.
Right? And customers I know are grabbing JSON out of dashboards and sticking them in ChatGPT. They're grabbing dashboards and screenshotting them and putting them in ChatGPT. There's a lot of governance issues there, though, right? And this, what you're seeing, is backed up with our documentation, our best practice, our system understanding. Like this Claude environment that you're seeing here, I'm connected to all of our Confluence docs, all of our architecture docs. I'm connected to the code base. Like, it's going to give you good answers, and you would benefit from that.
This is great.
That's me.
Can we have it now?
I'm done.
Can we have it now?
Here's the good thing, though. Like, building this stuff now, well, you couldn't build it before because MCP didn't exist. But, you know, ideally, this stuff shouldn't take 12 months anymore, because it's so much faster to conceptualize and develop than it used to be. Mm-hmm. I can't promise you timing on this one. I know I'd love to have it to you, like, you know, next release, but let's see how we go.
Thank you.
And thanks for the positive feedback, Anders. My voice is shot, so I'm going to stop talking.
We have been looking for all of these for long. Okay, I'm also going to stop recording, and then we can chat.